Near mint condition, the Homo collected edition.
That cover's so awesome.
This is Mr. Chris Claremont, a legend.
Melanie goes,
Tired.
It is Tuesday, all you minties, and I am the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, the Homo Collected Editions. So that means it's time to take an advanced look at the collected editions coming out from Marvel Comics this very week. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. Now, before going any further, a big thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us copies of all of these books that are due out this week. So we are looking at books coming out on May 27th or 28th of 2025. And before I go any further, please don't forget to hit that like button. Goes a long way for us here on the channel. Small thing you can do, but it does mean the world to us. All right, we are looking at a new ongoing series, a reprint of something that was previously printed as a gallery edition, and more ongoing series here in an epic collection, as well as a new masterwork. So this time around, let's go ahead and start actually with that giant size X-Men. All right, giant size X-Men, tribute to Wein and Cockrum. Of course, that Gil Kane cover right there. And this Alex Ross piece on the back. It's the Ed McGuinness piece, and then, of course, the spine, which we'll look at all the spines here in a little bit. This is such a great idea. So this was previously released as a gallery edition, I want to say about 4 or 5 years ago even. But what this is the whole tribute to Wein and Cockrum. And the first part is exactly that. It was the tribute where different artists took the script by Len Wein and did their own take on it. So you have artists in here like Alex Ross, you've got Kevin Nolan right here, Chris Samney, Steven Segovia, and also Chris Anka, Mark Brooks, Guri Hiru, Phil Noto, Marco Cacchetto, Mike Hawthorne, Rod Reyes, Javier Rodriguez, just to name a few. So the script is the same, it's just that they're doing their own interpretation of the actual pages. It's really cool, and I wish they had done this with, I guess, all of the giant size books. But I guess giant size X-Men, when you think of giant size Marvel, you think of giant size X-Men. It's the one that relaunched the era of X-Men, that got everybody interested in X-Men again after the series was canceled. And it's just here, I'm going to skip a little bit. It's just a really cool story that, of course, introduced us to characters like Storm and Colossus and Nightcrawler and Thunderbird. And then we added characters like Banshee and Wolverine and Sunfire to the team, and all led by Cyclops to go and rescue the original X-Men from the island of Krakoa. Really cool concept, and again, way ahead of its time, especially considering what ended up happening to the Krakoa X-Men. But we also have in here the original issue, so you can go and compare and contrast if you want to. I love doing this as a kid, where you have this right here, and you can see the script and the way the different artists portray, even like some of the civilian characters, and of course the angles, and just to see the difference in the script and how loose the script was, like going from here to over here. This is, of course, drawn by the legendary Dave Cockrum, and it has been collected many times, but this is such a unique way to collect it. Now, it's not the only thing that's in here, because all the way in the back you actually have not just the variant covers. It's a really interesting one by Trad Moore. And then, of course, the Ed McGuinness one. Then you've got one over here by Philip Tan. And then this is the actual, what is this called? The Hidden Gem variant by Dave Cockrum with new colors. I love this right here. This is talking about Len Wein and just how important he was as a writer, not just for X-Men, but in comics. And then, of course, over here, a modern-day Michelangelo, and that is talking about Dave Cockrum, and this is Patty Cockrum, all written by Jess Harold. And this is a piece right here by Chris Claremont talking about how it happened, and then, of course, how he ended up taking over the book. And this is really cool. This is just the different editors that worked on the book, discussing the special tribute. And then we have the artists themselves And this is freaking awesome. So you have like the artist that did the cover, and that's Adi Granov, and then we move on to Alex Ross, talking about how the issue of Giant Size X-Men really inspired them and what it meant to them. Then you've got Kevin Nolan. It's just such a cool tribute. I love this idea. This book has 200 pages and retails for $29.99. And then in the very back, you have, of course, some of the original concept artwork right here for Dave Cockrum, like who these characters were supposed to be. Some of them maybe even Legion of Superhero characters, Legionnaires. And you've got other pieces from Foom in here. But a cool concept nonetheless. And then the ad for the Uncanny X-Men. But that's what Giant Size X-Men tribute to Wein and Cockrum is. Ultimate X-Men by Peach Momoko, Volume 2, Children of the Atom. So here we go. This in here will tell us who exactly the Children of the Atom are in the Ultimate Universe. This is like no X-Men 616 comic has been done before. It is such a cool idea. I love the first volume. This gives you a recap as to what's happened and the broader picture of what's happening in the new Ultimate Universe. Peach Momoko, Zach Davidson, and then Travis Lanham working on this book, including the script adaptation. Here's your cast of characters and a new character that will be showing up through here. So in case you haven't read Volume 1, I do have to talk a little bit about Volume 1, and then moving on to this volume, kind of giving you a brief idea of what this is. This is collecting issues 7 through 12 of the Ultimate X-Men in the new Ultimate Universe. So it has nothing to do with the 616 universe. It has nothing really to do with the original Ultimate Universe. It is a brand new universe, and at the very beginning, you kind of get the idea that perhaps someone made this universe and there are certain generals that are in charge of different areas of this Earth. So this one has 144 pages and retails for $19.99, as you can see here from the back. Now, in this very volume, we do continue this investigation by Hisako Ichiki, who is, of course, Armor, and trying to figure out what ended up happening to some of her classmates, particularly one that just keeps showing up over and over and over again. And you get the sense that perhaps there might be a cult here. Now, in the previous volume, we did meet characters like Nico, and then, of course, Nico's friends, Natsu, and also Mori. But there's also this other character named Mei Igarashi, who you get the sense that could be like a character that is based on Storm, just by the way that she carries herself, and actually even her powers. Now, in this world where there are really no superheroes, they're starting to wake up. And something has happened, and that happened in the Secret Invasion book. And this feels like a small little corner of the entire universe, because it's like a horror manga is the way this reads. So it's a murder investigation. There's people killing themselves. There's somebody that could be the Shadow King, and that is Shinobu Kageyama. Kage, Shadow, nice. And then new characters that are also investigating. This character is a little bit older, and she goes by the name Canon. Now, her powers and the way that I love doing this, and I'm sure everybody does too, especially if you're an X-Men reader, her powers are very reminiscent of that of Psylocke. It was like when Noriko showed up, and Noriko immediately you're like, oh, it's Surge. It's got to be Surge. That's the only character that it could be. And sure enough, she does show the powers of Surge. Now, we do have a newer character that is introduced through these very pages here. And she is so different than the character of her 616 counterpart. And that is the character known as Yukio. She's more, in this particular world, like an investigative reporter. Even though she looks young, she's like, I think in here you kind of get the idea that she might be in her 20s. And she goes by this channel name Chimame, I think is what it's called. And she ended up coming to the city to investigate the whole suicide thing that's happening with Hisako Ichiki. And it's just a big part of the story. So they're getting closer to what is called the Children of the Atom. That at the very beginning, you get the sense that, oh, this is a cult. And somebody shows up through here that could potentially be the origin of this cult, or at least their blood is the origin of this cult. And it's somebody I didn't see coming and appearing, and I was like, oh, that's different. That's a nice surprise. So that's what this book is. It's full of big and nice surprises with well-established characters in the 616 universe, but here we are in a different universe. And it's just a lot of fun, and it does definitely read like a horror manga. And I love that because, you know, reading 40 years, for me, I've been reading 40 years of X-Men. I love the X-Men. They're still my favorite characters. I want something new. And this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Yes, it's straight up a manga. And yes, it's not for everybody. Somebody will look at the art and go, no, thank you. That is nothing like X-Men. And that's why I enjoy about it. We're talking about a horror cult and also this thing that could be the Shadow King. And then, of course, what is causing these kids to kill themselves, and how come one of them in particular, Hisako, can actually see and hear these people talk to her. So let's look in the back here for some of the extras, and we do have some. And they also add these wonderful, by the way, lexicons at the end of each of the issues. So if you're not familiar with a lot of the lores from Japan, this will kind of catch you up to speed with some of the things that are happening within the issue. I have learned so much through comics, and I know some people roll their eyes when I say that, but it's true. I have. I've learned about different countries and wars and things that I'm like, oh, that can't be real. Holy crap, that was real. That really happened. And that's the beauty of comics to me. And hopefully there are other kids out there like myself, like I was, learning things through comic books. And these are the variants in thumbnail size and other Ultimate collections. But that is Ultimate X-Men Volume 2. The best there is at what he does. And what he does is take off and take a break from the X-Men for a little while. We are looking at the new ongoing series. This is Wolverine by Saladin Ahmed, Volume 1, In the Bones. And I was very excited to read this because this is coming off of the heels of Krakoa era and, of course, Benjamin Percy's run. So this is a new, kind of a fresh start on the character. And he really does, like, this From the Ashes comics to me really reminds me of like going back to the basics, and whether some people love it or whether they miss Krakoa, it's still the thing that the X-Men have always done. It's like eventually, after years of a particular era, let's go back to the basics. So it's not like you can get used to something and fall in love with it, but that's just X-Men, and you roll with the punches. So here we have Saladin Ahmed with beautiful artwork by Martin Kokolo, Brian Valenza doing the colors, and then letters by Corey Petit. One of the most important things is this story takes place prior to X-Men 1 and Uncanny X-Men 1, the new relaunch series. So this collects issues 1 through 5 of the series, and it has 128 pages and retails for $17.99. Now, what is going on here is going back to the basics, and Wolverine is going back to the Northwest Territory of Canada, where he is running naked, and he's running with the pack. And he is being hunted down by none other than somebody from his past, and that is Silas, and that's, of course, Cyber. Somebody that just refuses to die, and of course that has a lot to do with who he is and what his origin is. But here he's hunting him, and he will stop at nothing. By the way, this actually has a parental advisory, and that's mainly due to the violence here. So Cyber is hunting him, and he ends up killing a bunch of Mounties, and Nightcrawler's looking for him because Wolverine, again, has disconnected himself from the X-Men, kind of starting anew, and he ends up going back to the Berserker Savage role that we know him to have. And it's something that a lot of the writers since the days of Chris Claremont have tried to get him to control. No matter who is writing the character, eventually he regresses back to that animalistic side that we all love and yet hate, because there's like, oh, you were so close to progression. Come on, Wolverine. But somebody killed his wolf pack, and somebody killed these Mounties, so now he's going after this Cyber, right? Somebody that he has faced many times in the past. But there's something new that is sniffing out not just Wolverine, not just Cyber, but anybody that has ever come in contact and assimilated with adamantium. It is something that has been sleeping, and it has woken up, and it is going after anyone that has ever had adamantium bonded to their bodies. And what it is, you'll get the hint of it here in a little bit, but the second and third issue are kind go hand in hand where you have Department H going after him because they blame him for the murders of all those Mounties. And then Wolverine runs into a very unique Wendigo. This is Leonard. And why do I give him a name if he's just a Wendigo? Well, because he does have a name. And he is a different type of Wendigo, one that Wolverine has never faced before. As a matter of fact, they kind of like team up. And this is a Wendigo that has a conscience and something is off with him, and Wolverine finds out what it is, and now he wants to help him because it's Wolverine. So through a series of miscommunications, of course, Wolverine is now being hunted by Department H, and he's with his Wendigo buddy, and then you have Cyber that is coming after them. It's Cyber looking different. Cyber having these golden arms, and he's going after anybody that also has adamantium. Could it be that creature that they've woken up? Well, let's just say this is a big old adamantium party reunion, and that creature might be coming after them, and that's all I will say. And it is nice to see Nightcrawler show up through here and immediately make that connection with his friend. But the first 5 issues kind of set up everything that is happening before X-Men and Uncanny X-Men of the new ongoing series. And again, wonderful. I really like Kokolo's artwork. It is so good. Kind of reminds me of like a little bit of like Sean Chen or Clay Mann mixed with those artists. And now let's look in the back here for some of the extras. So that's the page. The letter page there at the end of issue number 1, and then the variant covers here, including some that have absolutely nothing to do with the story at all. And some of them do. Some of them are in thumbnail size, and some of them are in splash pages. But again, this is Wolverine by Saladin Ahmed, Volume 1, in the bones. 128 pages, $17.99. And here we go with that time of the video where we look at all the spines of the books coming out this week, as well as a reminder to smash that like button. And I just realized this is an X-Men heavy week. Not just the Giant Size X-Men or Ultimate X-Men or Wolverine, but also Archangel appearing in that Thunderbolts cover. Lots of X-Men. So if you're a mutant lover, this is the week for you. All right, let's continue with the overview. All right, Thunderbolts Epic Collection. Volume 3, Targeted for Death. And this is the tail end of the Kurt Busiek era and the beginning of the Fabian Nicieza era. So collected in here are issues 26 through 41 of Thunderbolts, Thunderbolts Annual 2000, and Avengers Annual 2000. The book has 464 pages and retails for $44.99. So here are the credits. You also have Joe Casey writing, like he did like a backup feature for one of the stories. Oh no, it's a flashback. That's what it is. Mark Bagley, of course, Leonardo Manco, Norm Brayfogle, and Richard Howell, Scott Hanna, and Greg Adams are some of the inkers, and colorists like Joe Rosas and Tom Smith, and then letters like Richard Starkings and Troy Pateri. So this is towards the end of the Kurt Busiek stuff. So I do have to talk about some spoilers because of some of the stuff that's happening through here that is very important. So just in case you've never read, especially Thunderbolts issue 1, by all means, please, this is going to be spoilers with the big revelation, and I don't want to spoil that for anybody. All right, Thunderbolts. We kick it off with Mach 1 in prison, but it seems like they were running a little behind because of the previous story arc. So now it's him going to prison, but there's a flashback here, and this is the flashback that's done by Joe Casey, talking about Mach 1. So, Mach 1 is actually Abner Jenkins. That's right, the Beetle. But you also have Songbird, who's Melissa Gold, Screaming Mimi, and Atlas, Jolston Goliath, right? And what was it? Eric Jolston, that's who it was. And then you have Techno, who was once the Fixer, Norbert. I can never remember that guy's last name. But Citizen V, who was once Baron Zemo. Baron Helmut Zemo. And then Meteorite was Moonstone, Carla Sofin. So these villains in issue number 1 are revealed to be the Thunderbolts, pretending to be good guys. But then, as the issues progressed, they started doing things that they were like, oh, kind of like being a good guy. Some of them still like being good guys, others not so much. But in the previous arc, you find out that the character of Mach 1, who again was Abner Jenkins, the Beetle, is going on trial for murder because he murdered someone as the Beetle. So that's what this story kicks off with. And then we have the coming of Archangel. Now, also during this time, you have Jolt that is on the team, and you have Charcoal, and then you've got Hawkeye who came in to lead the team. And they're about to meet up with Warren Worthington III, and of course, go up against none other than Graviton, who I really like as a villain. I always thought like him and Count Nefaria went to the same barber, went to the same like place to get their costumes, but I always enjoyed him as a villain. I think he's such an underrated villain. But this is the team that is going up against them. And towards the end of Busiek's run, something interesting happens where someone has been at the headquarters of the Thunderbolts. Someone they kind of thought like had been hiding there, and as it turns out, it is none other than the Ogre. Let me actually get to those pages here. This is after they fight the Secret Empire when they come back. So the Secret Empire is actually being led by someone else. And who is this Baron Zemo? And there's a new character in the Citizen V outfit. And Valerie Cooper and Henry Gyrich get involved whenever they try to make a deal with the character of Mach 1. So, this is the character of Ogre, who, if you're not familiar with him, we haven't seen a lot of him. He was part of the Factor 3 that fought the X-Men, and then he talks about how he waited for his villain friends, and they kind of forgot about him, and he stayed on this mountainside where the Thunderbolts are living, and here he was making them think. So he kind of ends up joining the team. But one of the things that Busiek does is, of course, he likes to keep people on their toes, is there's a little bit of a twist with the character that happens. So I don't want to spoil what that is, but it does make for an interesting story, especially when leaving it in the hands of Fabian Nicieza. The next issue is the beginning of I think this is the actual Fabian Nicieza issue right here, where some of the things are going to change. Yeah, Fabian Nicieza and Kurt Busiek still reading nervously. We have the fight with the Hulk. We have a new Beetle that shows up, but is it the original Beetle? We have the death of a character. What? Just like that, within like the first issue, there's a death of a character, of a Thunderbolt. So we're going to need new Thunderbolts. And man, it's heartbreaking, especially when you find out what happens. You find out who exactly is behind the Beetle. And then you find out this plot thread that started all the way back in Mark Gruenwald's run of Thunderbolts comes to play. Or I'm sorry, Mark Gruenwald's run of Captain America comes to play in this run of Fabian Nicieza's Thunderbolts, and it's mind-blowing. You're like, what? I forgot about those things. And man, it's very surprising. You have a meetup here between Mephisto and the Thunderbolts, and them living their biggest fears. I like the way that Charcoal handles his own. And then, of course, that leads into the Avengers issue with Kurt Busiek writing it, and this is the return of Patsy Walker in a very weird and obscure way, but it makes for a really fun story. And that is, of course, collected in the Avengers by Kurt Busiek. You have the Fixer, and then eventually you do get the return of Mach 1, and that is actually Mach 2, but who could be under the armor? And this is one of the characters that I was talking about right here. Who is this mysterious character that is going around? Oh man, it's such an awesome reveal. And then Enter the Sandman, which is how we end this particular volume. Oh, no, I forgot. We have this big fight right here. The Penance Council, with some of these characters from the Golden Age. And what ties they have to Sandman, and of course, Silver Sable. Now, all the way in the back, you do have some original art by Mark Bagley, and then other Epic collections. So this book has a total of 464 pages and retails for $44.99, and that is Thunderbolts Epic Collection Volume 3, Targeted for Death. Last but certainly not least is the Marvel Masterworks, The Avengers, Volume 25, and like the other Marvel Masterworks, comes with a dust jacket and what's collected in here, and we are looking at the Roger Stern era. As a matter of fact, this is like the 4th year of Roger Stern on the book, and written by Roger Stern, David Michelinie, actually kicking off this book with the Marvel graphic novel number 27, which is, of course, the Emperor Doom story, and then John Byrne writing the Fantastic Four, issue 286, so you know where this is going if you're a fan of the Phoenix. John Buscema, Bob Hall, John Byrne, inkers like Tom Palmer, who changes the game up, Kyle Baker, and then Jim Novak and John Workman doing the lettering, colors by Christy Sheely and Andy Yankus and Glynis Oliver. And here you have the breakdown of what's collected in here and where you're going to find each of these issues. The wonderful introduction by Uncle Raj. I strongly suggest reading the issues, by the way, before reading the introduction, because he kind of spoils a little bit as to what happens in these issues. So we do have collected in here the Avengers 255 to 263, annual number 14, Marvel graphic novel 27, which I mentioned is Emperor Doom, and then, of course, the Fantastic Four 286. The book has 368 pages and retails for $75. Emperor Doom is such an awesome story. This is the story when Dr. Doom abducts the Purple Man. And what he does with the Purple Man is he finds a way to amplify his power and enabling him to just enslave the world's population. He gets the Submariner to help him out, even though the Submariner is about to join the Avengers in this very volume. However, he doesn't take control of everybody. There are certain Avengers that were, how do I put this? Were not, I guess they weren't awake when something happened. Like, for example, Wonder Man was in a sensory deprivation chamber, so he wasn't affected by the Purple Man's power. Now they are waking up and wondering what the hell exactly is going on. It's such a great story, and changes things a lot for what's happening here. The behind the scenes will tell you that during this time, Roger Stern really didn't know that there was going to be a West Coast Avengers comic, like an ongoing stuff. So the characters he was going to use for these story arcs for the next couple of years were now taken from him. So he was like, oh man, well that sucks. I got to come up with some new stuff. And man, sure enough, he did. And then he also lost his artist. But who he gained was none other than Big John Buscema with Tom Palmer on inks. This was a match made in heaven. This is the Avengers that I remember reading and growing up with. Oh, this is why I want this in a Omni format. So this is in the aftermath into the big Absolute Vision storyline. So the Skrulls have now become allies to this space pirate that is going to be showing up through these pages. And that is none other than Nebula. So Nebula is making her first appearance through these pages. So you have some of the Avengers that go off on this mission to outer space, which leaves the Avengers here on Earth. So you have Captain Marvel encountering Thanos' spaceship, where she ends up going to investigate. And we have the Wasp becoming the new chairwoman here on Earth. And that will take the Avengers over into the Savage Land right here for a run-in with none other than Kazar and Zabu to fight Terminus. Now, there's a really cool behind-the-scenes moment here that Roger Stern actually drew something that he wanted added to show you the size of Terminus, just to see how big he is compared to the rest of the Avengers. Fire-Lord gets involved with this space story, because you are dealing with the character of Star Fox. So Star Fox actually finds out something about himself, and he discovers Nebula is the granddaughter of Thanos. And all of this is what Nebula looks like. Now, this is long before, of course, I think it was in Ron Mar's run on Silver Surfer where they changed her, the way that she looks. This is the Skrulls that she's teamed up with. And now the Avengers are reunited to fight off against this big invasion. And ties it in nicely to something else going on that's bigger throughout the entire Marvel Universe. And that is the Secret Wars 2 story. So the Beyonder gets thrown in here. There's a lot of crossovers happening in this. This is the crossover with the Fantastic Four, annual number 19. But annual number 19 is not collected in here, which is very surprising. Most of the time they go... Somebody actually asked me on my Saturday live stream if it was collected in here, and it is not. This is more of the tie-in with the Secret Wars 2. And I love this era of the Avengers. There's Sting right now. this does get my seal of approval. I love this era of the Avengers. This was the era I grew up with, and it was just a lot of fun. Eventually, they get Namor to join the team, which is just nuts when you think about Namor, who was just teamed up with Doctor Doom, joining this team. Now, this leads into this very, very famous issue right here that goes back to the idea of how do we bring... Okay, spoilers in case you don't know anything about X Factor #1, but how do we bring back the character of Jean Grey? And they finally give credit to Kurt Busiek, because he's the one that pitched the idea about suspended animation, being in a cocoon, trapped underwater for years. So that's how they're going to bring her back, and it all kicks off here with this underwater expedition. They find this cocoon, and at the very end of this issue right here, well, first of all, they think, okay, it's got to be either him or her, and by him or her, I mean Adam Warlock, of course. But at the very end of this issue, you're like, oh my, can you imagine reading this as it was coming out? And you see this redhead and she says Scott. And the next story arc in Fantastic Four 286 is called Like a Phoenix. You're like, what? No way. Oh, this is such a great issue. Inked by the phenomenal and legendary Terry Austin, coming back and joining forces with John Byrne. But it is Jean Grey waking up and where she's been. And if she didn't die as the Dark Phoenix, then who could she possibly be? And all of that leads into X Factor #1. And then in the back, you do have extras right here, like promo posters, Marvel Age Annual. This is a fully painted cover by Tom Palmer. The guy was such a talent. And then the color guide to Nebula right here, the designs by John Buscema. And this is the designs of Hercules by John Byrne, who they got to use in this issue. And then the biographies on the wonderful creators. And that's it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and page count of each of these books. In the comments down below, let me know how you're collecting each series, whether you get the Omnis, whether you're hoping for an Omni, whether you're hoping for an oversized hardcover, or if you're just picking up the trade paperbacks, which books you're getting. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Smash that like button on the way out. Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.